Imagine a graph. For nearly 10,000 years, the line representing human income is a flat, desolate horizon. Generation after generation, people lived, worked, and died with almost exactly the same level of wealth as their ancestors. Whether you were a peasant in 500 BC or 1500 AD, your economic reality was essentially frozen. But then, about 200 years ago, something miraculous happened. In a historical blink of an eye, that line snapped. It turned nearly vertical, skyrocketing in what economists call the hockey stick of growth. Income didn't just increase, it exploded, doubling, tripling, and eventually increasing 5 to 6-fold for the average person in developing economies. Why now, and why not before? Think about it. Humanity wasn't stupid before the 1800s. We had the printing press, we had windmills, we had complex irrigation, and even Newton's laws of motion. Yet, for all that brilliance, the needle of global poverty barely moved. We were stuck in a cycle of innovation without transformation. What was the secret sauce that suddenly turned the engine on? What force allowed us to break a 10 millennia-old curse of stagnation? This isn't just a question for history buffs. In 2025, the Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded to 3 visionaries, Joel Mokyr, Philippe Aghion, and Peter Howitt, precisely because they finally decoded this mystery. Their research doesn't just explain why your great-great-grandparents were poor. It explains why your current career feels so volatile, why tech giants fall overnight, and what you specifically need to do to survive the next decade of economic chaos. If you've ever wondered why the world feels like it's moving too fast, or why stable jobs seem to be a thing of the past, the answer lies in a concept called creative destruction and a fundamental shift in how humans handle knowledge. The question is, are you riding the wave of this growth, or are you about to be crushed by the destruction part of the equation? To understand why we were stuck for thousands of years, we have to look at the work of Nobel laureate Joel Mokyr. He discovered that the problem wasn't a lack of smart people or cool inventions. It was a fundamental disconnect in the way human beings processed information. Mokyr breaks down all human knowledge into 2 distinct buckets. Propositional knowledge, omega, this is the what and the why. It's the theoretical stuff, scientific laws, the properties of matter, and the rules of nature. And prescriptive knowledge, lambda. This is the how. These are the techniques, the instructions, and the practical tricks of the trade. Before the Industrial Revolution, these 2 worlds were like star-crossed lovers who never actually met. They lived in completely separate bubbles. The blacksmith paradox. Imagine a medieval blacksmith. He was a master of lambda, the how. He knew exactly how long to keep the iron in the fire, exactly when the color was right, and exactly how hard to strike the hammer to make a legendary sword. He had incredible practical skill. But if you asked him why the heat changed the molecular structure of the iron, or why quenching it in water made it harder, he wouldn't have a clue. He didn't know chemistry, he knew tradition. On the other side of town, you had the scholars and scientists. They spent their lives studying the laws of nature, omega, the why. But these elites would never dream of stepping foot in a dirty, soot-covered workshop. They viewed practical labor as beneath them. The stagnation cycle. Because the thinkers and the doers never talked, practical inventions were limited by trial and error. If a master died without an apprentice, his how-to knowledge often died with him. Scientific theories stayed trapped in dusty libraries, never being tested or used for real-world problems. Knowledge couldn't stack. It was like having a million Lego bricks but no instruction manual, or an instruction manual but no bricks. This separation meant that even when we did invent something great, like the windmill or the printing press, it didn't trigger a chain reaction of growth. It was just a one-off spark in a cold room. Until the 16th and 17th centuries, the world was waiting for a bridge. It was waiting for a way to force the why and the how to finally shake hands. The breakthrough happened during the 16th and 17th centuries, when the wall between the thinker and the doer finally crumbled. This scientific revolution turned trifold knowledge into a high-speed engine for growth. The knowledge feedback loop. Suddenly, scientists began emphasizing measurement, controlled experiments, and replicability. When an engineer understood why oxygen levels affected the carbon in iron, omega, they could produce high-quality, consistent steel, lambda. This success then forced scientists to ask new questions about crystal structures, leading to the birth of materials science. This loop is why we have smartphones today, instead of just better hammers. Knowledge began to compound. According to Mokir, this only worked because of three pillars of progress. Tightness. Scientific knowledge, omega, became so reliable that entrepreneurs were willing to bet millions of dollars on new techniques. Low access cost. The printing press acted as a bridge. A craftsman in Manchester could read a Parisian research paper in the morning and apply it in his workshop by the afternoon. Social openness. Society had to tolerate the new replacing the old. Think of the Luddites who smashed weaving machines. They were trying to stop the engine of progress, to save their old jobs. The Nobel discovery, creative destruction. But why is growth so steady? For the last 200 years, industrial economies have grown at roughly 2% per year. If innovation is chaotic, shouldn't growth be a roller coaster? The 2025 Nobel winners, Philippe Aghion and Peter Howitt, explained this through a concept called creative destruction. In this system, every new innovation exists specifically to kill the old one. Netflix destroyed the empire of Blockbuster. The iPhone annihilated Nokia's 40% market share. It's a brutal, relentless cycle. Underneath that stable 2% growth rate, about 10% of companies are dying, while 10% of new ones are being born every year. The self-balancing equation. Aghion and Howitt's Nobel-winning math proved that the economy has a thermostat. If innovation happens too fast, profits drop because companies get replaced too quickly. This discourages investment, which slows down innovation. If innovation slows down, companies stay on top longer and make more profit. This attracts new investors, which speeds up innovation again. This creates a steady-state equilibrium of 2% growth. It's not a coincidence. It's a self-correcting biological system of the market. Should the government intervene? The Nobel research also settled the big state versus free market debate. They found that the market isn't perfect because of two conflicting forces. Knowledge spillovers. A company might spend $100 million on research, but only keep the profits for 2 years before someone else improves it. Since the whole world benefits forever, but the company only profits briefly, companies often underinvest in big ideas. Verdict: government should help. Business stealing. Sometimes a company spends billions just to be 5% better than a rival and steal 100% of their market. To society, this is a waste of resources. Verdict: government should step back. There is no one-size-fits-all answer, but the Aghion-Howitt model gives policymakers the exact formula to decide when to step in and when to get out of the way. If you feel like the skills you learned 3 years ago are already becoming obsolete, or if you feel a constant hustle anxiety about the future of your career, it's not your fault. The 2025 Nobel Prize research proves that we are living in the most volatile era in human history. We are the first generations to experience the full, unfiltered force of creative destruction. Unlike our parents, who could master one trade and retire, we are living through a system that is designed to replace the old every single day. So, how do you navigate a world that is literally designed to destroy your current job to make room for a better one? 1. Don't just learn the how, master the why. If you only have prescriptive knowledge, lambda, meaning you know how to use a specific software, how to code in one language, or how to run a specific ad campaign, you are highly replaceable. Tools change. AI evolves. To be anti-fragile, you must invest in propositional knowledge, omega. Understand the first principles of your industry. If you understand why a customer buys or why an economy fluctuates, you can adapt to any new tool that comes along. 2. Embrace the chaos as stability. In the Aghion-Howitt model, the 2% steady growth you see on the surface is fueled by 10% of companies dying beneath it. Stability is an illusion. Adaptation is the only real security. The most dangerous thing you can do in a creative destruction economy is stand still. 3. The fragility of prosperity. Finally, the Nobel laureates leave us with a sobering warning. The prosperity we've enjoyed for the last 200 years is not a law of nature. For 10,000 years, we were poor. We only got rich because we built a bridge between science and practice and allowed the new to challenge the old. Today, that bridge is under threat by monopolies trying to kill competition, echo chambers that fragment our collective knowledge, resistance to change from those who currently hold power. The bottom line, economic growth is a choice society makes every day. At a personal level, your growth is a choice to keep the knowledge loop spinning. Understand the why, master the how, and never be afraid to let your old skills die so that your new potential can be born. The hockey stick of history is still pointing up, but only for those who are willing to keep climbing.